I'm Jeffrey Berg. I'm a DC-based artist. I've lived here most of my life. I'm largely self-taught as an artist. I had a wonderful high school art teacher. I've taken courses and workshops along the way, but I did not get a formal arts education. Largely self-taught. But along the way, I had a couple different careers. I started out as a social worker, then I had a long stint as an attorney. Most recently, I was a case manager in a community mental health clinic. But throughout those years, I was, the common thread was always drawing for me. My practice as an artist is entirely drawing, pencil on paper. I have tried other media along the way, but it always comes back to me, to the drawing, to the primacy of drawing. I'm kind of obsessed with the line on paper. It's both descriptive and emotional, and I really love that. My subject matter is all person-centered. I suppose it's narrative, it's expressive. I capture a moment in time, a moment in a story, so that there's an epilogue and a prologue and an epilogue, and that's important to me. I don't usually divulge what those are. I like people to interpret my work on their own. But it is all person-centered, because for me that's where the story is. It comes in the tradition of artists exploring character. I like to explore the character of a person, usually within the context of a specific event. But it is very character-based. I like to get into the internality of a person and explore how their past, our past, forms the lens through which we experience and view the future. The show is bearing witness, and it comes in the tradition of artists observing and recording and interpreting and giving voice to current contemporary social justice issues and stories. A couple of years ago, I started an exploration of the search for home, for sanctuary, for refuge. And I did a series on American homelessness. I did a series on the diaspora, meaning people all over the world searching for home. The issues that I'm exploring here are issues of unrest, turmoil, trauma, the world that we are experiencing today, and giving voice to the people who are going through those traumas and those experiences so that they're not forgotten. I have a piece here called The Crossing, which it depicts people crossing the Rio Grande to get across to the United States border. And I was inspired by a video that I saw where there were very small, dark figures crossing the river, off in the distance. And it occurred to me that those people were real, full-bodied humans who have their own stories. And I wanted to give voice to those stories. And so that piece depicts the small figures crossing the river, but also builds them into full-bodied characters who have past that they're bringing with them, motivations and hopes and the trauma of the actual crossing. I recently spoke to a friend who had a friend of hers who had that exact experience. She was crossing the river with her 5-year-old daughter, and they were almost swept away by the current, but they were rescued by a person of an entirely different culture. And I thought, that's the story that I wanted to capture, because otherwise those stories will disappear into the ether. They won't be shared. They'll end up in some form of intergenerational trauma, unspoken. And it's important for me as an artist to bring those to life and give them voice. Well, I'm not sure what I want people to carry away from seeing these pictures. I mean, there is an emotionality to all my work, and I would like people to have an emotional connection to it. But beyond that, I don't really have an expectation. People get what they get, they see what they see, they feel what they feel. But what I do know is that if 10 people see a drawing of mine, there will be 30 different interpretations. And I love that. And those 30 different interpretations will be entirely different from what inspired me. And I love that. I love to hear how people interpret and what stories they bring to what stories they get from the drawings. I'm currently working on a series of drawings that are inspired by 3 letters I found in an antique store from a woman who in 1926 was writing to her disappeared husband, her traveling husband. And it's a one-sided conversation, but I'm exploring her feelings and the narrative that she's created. So I'm working on that. I'm also about to start, or I have started, in the preliminary steps of a series on disappearing, how our government is currently disappearing people without due process and without any real formal charges. And I have a couple drawings here that have started that exploration. But looming ahead for me is an exploration of Jungian universal and unconscious symbols. I'm doing some reading, I'm taking a course in it right now, and I'm hoping to start to explore that and pull that into my drawings, and I don't know where that's going to go.